For over a decade, the Su-57 Felon has attracted as much curiosity as controversy. Presented as the flagship of Russian aviation, this aircraft is often compared to the F-22 Raptor or the Chinese J-20. But what does it truly represent? Is it a revolutionary machine or a half-hearted military program, a victim of its time and economic constraints? To understand the Su-57, we must first look back. Its story begins long before the prototype appeared in the final years of the Soviet Union. As early as 1979, Moscow dreamed of a fifth-generation fighter capable of rivaling future American projects. The program, called MFI, Multifunctional Frontline Fighter, was intended to replace the MiG-29 Fulcrum and Su-27 Flanker, two legends that had defined Soviet air power. Two competing concepts emerged: the MiG 1.44 and the Sukhoi Su-32, later renamed the Su-47 Burkut, recognizable by its forward-swept wings. The ambitions were immense: to combine the maneuverability of a flanker with the stealth and versatility that the aviation of tomorrow promised. But the collapse of the USSR in 1991 ended these dreams. Russia in the 1990s no longer had the financial means or political stability to develop such a project. It was not until 2001 that the idea resurfaced. The Ministry of Defense relaunched a program called PAKFA, Perspektivny Aviacyjny Kompleks Frontowej Aviation, literally Prospective Airborne Complex of Frontline Aviation. Once again, MiG and Sukhoi were in competition. MiG proposed a relatively affordable aircraft, while Sukhoi offered a costlier but technologically superior fighter. Sukhoi was chosen. Despite the economic difficulties of the time, the design bureau had remained active thanks to the massive export of its flanker variants, notably to India and China. By 2004, the concept was finalized. It was then called the T-50. At first glance, it resembled the American F-22, but with a clear ambition to offer comparable, even superior performance at a much lower cost. In 2010, the first prototype took flight, a symbolic step, even though the path to operational service would prove long and fraught with obstacles. The following years were marked by a succession of prototypes and demonstrators. 10 units in total were produced before the aircraft was officially renamed Su-57 in 2017. Its NATO designation, Felon, reflects a certain Western caution. But behind this label lies an aircraft that combines tradition and innovation. On paper, the Su-57 has all the characteristics of a fifth-generation fighter: stealth, supercruise, multiple integrated sensors, and a high degree of maneuverability. Its reported top speed reaches Mach 2, while it can maintain supercruise at Mach 1.3, an advantage the F-35 does not have. Its range is also impressive, up to 3,500 kilometers on internal fuel and over 4,500 kilometers with external tanks. These figures place it well above its American rival, the F-22, which is limited to about 1,000 kilometers on internal fuel. But the most intriguing aspect of the Su-57's design is its sensors. The aircraft carries a Belka AESA radar capable of tracking 60 targets and engaging 16 simultaneously. It is supported by additional X-band radars mounted on the fuselage sides, offering unprecedented lateral coverage. In practical terms, this allows the pilot to maintain radar lock even during evasive maneuvers, a valuable tactical ability against enemy missiles. Advanced electro-optical systems add to this: infrared detectors, ultraviolet sensors to detect missile launches, and a DIRCM system using lasers to blind enemy seekers. On paper, this is a fighter designed to survive in a threat-saturated environment, where stealth alone is no longer enough.
However, stealth remains a topic of debate. Unlike the Americans, who use extremely sophisticated but costly radar-absorbing coatings, Russia relies on a more pragmatic approach. The Su-57's airframe is built from composite materials and integrated absorbent fibers, intended to reduce radar signature while keeping costs at an acceptable level. Western experts, however, estimate that its stealth rating remains below that of the F-22 or the Chinese J-20. Adding to this is another crucial question: the engines. The first Su-57 units still use AL-41F1 turbines, derived from those of the Su-35. Eventually, the aircraft is expected to receive the new Saturn Izdelia 30 engines, designed to improve thrust, reduce fuel consumption, and lower maintenance costs. However, their development has proven slower than anticipated, delaying the aircraft's full operational entry into service. Despite this, the Su-57 remains a formidable aircraft in terms of maneuverability. As an heir to the flanker tradition, it retains impressive agility at low speeds while incorporating new features like levcons, movable surfaces on the wing's leading edge, which optimize airflow during tight maneuvers. This combination of agility and partial stealth places it in a hybrid category between the Western philosophy focused on invisibility and the Russian approach favoring maneuverability. Operationally, the situation is more nuanced. The Su-57 officially entered service in December 2020, but in very small numbers. Initially, Russia aimed to deploy 200 units by 2028. Today, estimates suggest around 70 to 80 aircraft over the decade. A modest production, a direct consequence of economic constraints and international sanctions. Despite this limited deployment, the aircraft has been spotted in Ukrainian airspace since 2022. Russian authorities claim it has conducted strike missions and suppression of enemy air defenses, taking advantage of its stealth. The lack of independent verification makes these claims difficult to confirm, but they at least suggest that the Su-57 is now operational in certain roles. Its future remains uncertain. Some analysts believe it is destined to remain an elite fighter in small numbers, an American equivalent of the F-22, too expensive and too rare to be mass-produced. Others see it as a development platform for future fighter generations, including the lighter, export-oriented Su-75 Checkmate. Ultimately, the Su-57 Felon embodies the paradoxes of contemporary Russia. Undeniable aeronautical expertise, inherited from decades of rivalry with the West, yet constrained by economic and technological limitations. It is an aircraft that combines innovation and compromise, power and uncertainty. Perhaps this is its true role, not to replace the flanker overnight, but to symbolize the continuity of a unique design school where agility and robustness matter as much as stealth and onboard electronics. As always in military aviation, only time will tell whether the Su-57 will establish itself as a milestone or remain a mere footnote.
To fully grasp the significance of the Su-57, one must compare its design philosophy with that of its direct rivals. Take the F-22 Raptor, for example. The American aircraft was originally designed to be invisible. Angular airframe, carefully designed air intakes, radar-absorbing coatings, and an operational doctrine centered on air superiority. The Su-57, however, seems to have taken a different path. Rather than aiming for perfect invisibility, it prioritizes a balance between relative stealth and kinematic superiority. This choice is not trivial. It reflects the Russian vision of aerial warfare. Facing NATO and its dense network of radars and AWACS, Moscow knows that no aircraft can remain completely invisible. The best solution is therefore a compromise. Reduce the radar signature to complicate detection, while retaining enough maneuverability to survive once detected. This blend of agility and discretion gives the Su-57 a unique identity, distinct from Western standards. Another area where the Su-57 intrigues is its arsenal. The aircraft has two large internal bays capable of carrying next-generation air-to-air missiles, such as the R-77M, equipped with an active seeker and an estimated range of 200 kilometers. For close combat, it can carry the R-74M2, an infrared-guided missile capable of extreme maneuvers, usable even outside the pilot's direct line of sight, thanks to a helmet-mounted sighting system. Additionally, there is the future K-77M missile,
equipped with a miniature AESA antenna designed to counter enemy stealth fighters. But the Su-57 is not solely intended for air superiority. Its internal bays and external hardpoints also allow it to carry air-to-ground munitions, such as KAB-250 guided bombs or KH-59 Mk2 cruise missiles. This versatility makes it a multi-role aircraft, capable of striking deep behind enemy lines while still confronting the best Western fighters. It is important to note that Russia places significant emphasis on integrating drones with the Su-57. The most emblematic program is the Okhotnik-B, a large stealth drone designed to operate in cooperation with the Felon. The concept is simple. The Su-57 acts as the brain, and the drone as an extension, capable of carrying additional sensors or weapons and operating on the front line to reduce risk to the pilot. If this loyal wingman concept comes to fruition, it could compensate for the limited number of Su-57s produced. Yet, despite all these promises, doubts remain. Is the Su-57 truly on par with its rivals? The program's opacity makes definitive assessment difficult. Some Western sources claim the aircraft has not yet reached full maturity, particularly due to its interim engines. Others argue that its electronic systems still lag behind those of the West. But underestimating Russia would be unwise. History is full of examples where aircraft initially deemed inferior proved formidable on the battlefield. The comparison with the Su-27 Flanker is particularly instructive. When it entered service in the 1980s, many Western experts doubted its value against American F-15s. Yet the Flanker quickly established itself as one of the most capable fighters of its generation, feared in exercises and widely exported worldwide. The Su-57 could follow a similar trajectory, a hesitant start followed by gradual consolidation through successive updates. Another factor to consider is the Su-57's psychological impact. Even in small numbers, the existence of this aircraft sends a clear signal. Russia remains capable of producing a fifth-generation fighter. In the realm of strategic perception, this assertion of power counts almost as much as the aircraft's actual performance. For Moscow, the Su-57 is as much a deterrent as it is a military tool. In this context, it is also worth examining the cost. The F-22 Raptor, for example, reached a unit price exceeding $150 million, which led to the premature halt of its production after only 187 units. The Su-57 is estimated at around $40 to $50 million per unit, a figure to be taken cautiously as it varies depending on sources and what is included in the calculation. If accurate, this would place the Felon in a far more accessible category, at least on paper. However, economic sanctions imposed on Russia complicate matters. Access to certain advanced electronic components is restricted, which can slow production and limit performance. The challenge for Moscow is to maintain a reliable supply chain while developing its own technological alternatives. Finally, the Su-57 cannot be discussed without mentioning its symbolic dimension. Every generation of fighters embodies the spirit of its time. The MiG-29 symbolized the Cold War. The Su-35 represented Russia's return to the international stage. And today, the Su-57 illustrates Moscow's determination to stand up to NATO despite isolation and difficulties. Whether produced in 70 or 200 units, it will remain for a long time a technological showcase and an object of fascination.
The future of the Su-57 will also depend on its ability to evolve. The history of military aviation shows that fighters are never static. They transform over successive versions, integrating new sensors, new weapons, and new software. This is what we have seen with the F-16, which entered service in the 1970s but remains in production thanks to constant modernization. The Su-57 could follow a similar path. Already, Russian engineers are discussing more advanced variants, capable of carrying miniaturized hypersonic weapons. The goal is clear: to allow the Felon to strike strategic targets at very long range while staying out of reach of enemy air defenses. If this integration succeeds, it would give the Su-57 a strategic dimension that few fighters in the world could match. Russia is also seeking to promote exports of its flagship aircraft. The partnership with India for the FGFA, fifth-generation fighter aircraft program, could have given the Su-57 an international career. However, in 2018, New Delhi withdrew from the project, judging the aircraft too costly and insufficiently stealthy. Since then, Moscow has attempted to convince other partners, notably Algeria, which is rumored to have shown discreet interest. Nothing is confirmed, but this perspective shows that the Kremlin sees the Su-57 as much as a showcase of its industry as a military tool.
The question of real combat performance remains. Information is limited, but some clues emerge. In Syria, the Su-57 was reportedly tested as early as 2018 in an asymmetrical warfare context. Missions reportedly included precision strikes and evaluation of its onboard systems. In Ukraine, reports suggest it has been used at a distance, notably to launch cruise missiles to limit risk. These elements suggest that Russia remains cautious in committing its most valuable fighter. This choice is logical. Deploying such a rare aircraft in direct combat would be risky, especially against modern air defense systems. But it also reveals a truth. The Su-57 is not yet the central pivot of Russian aviation. For now, this role is filled by the Su-35 and Su-30, which form the backbone of the air forces. The Felon, meanwhile, plays more of a complementary role, serving as a technological scout and operational demonstrator. But perhaps that is precisely its function. In modern warfare, image and perception matter as much as material reality. Seeing a Su-57 over an operational theater, even briefly, sends a clear message. Russia still masters the art of designing a fifth-generation fighter. For a country under intense economic and diplomatic pressure, this is a powerful political signal. Technically, the coming years will be decisive. The final introduction of the Izdeliye 30 engines, expected in the latter half of the decade, should give the Su-57 its optimal performance: increased thrust, reduced consumption, and a true prolonged supercruise capability. If this milestone is reached, the Felon could finally claim the status of a credible rival to the F-22 and J-20. It will also be important to monitor the evolution of its electronic systems. The full integration of advanced data fusion, where radar, infrared, and optical sensors combine into a single coherent view, is a complex but essential challenge for operating in modern warfare environments. If Russia succeeds in mastering this technology, it will narrow the gap with Western fighters. In parallel, the connection with the Okhotnik B could be a game-changer. The idea of a man-machine duo, where the Su-57 pilot controls one or more combat drones, opens unprecedented possibilities. It would extend mission range, saturate enemy defenses, and multiply attack angles. In theory, it is an ideal force multiplier to compensate for the low number of Su-57s produced. But make no mistake, developing such a synergy takes years, even decades. The United States itself still struggles to realize its vision of collaborative operations between aircraft and drones. For Russia, the success of this project will depend on its economic resources, industrial capabilities, and resilience to sanctions. Ultimately, the The Su-57 appears as a paradoxical fighter. On one hand, it embodies Russian tradition, robustness, agility, versatility. On the other, it seeks to enter a domain dominated by the United States and China, stealth and advanced electronic integration. The result is a hybrid aircraft, neither fully stealthy nor fully conventional, but carrying a distinct philosophy. And perhaps that is its true strength. The Su-57 does not try to be a clone of the F-22 or J-20. It represents a different approach, where survival relies not only on invisibility, but on the combination of speed, agility, and electronic warfare. An approach less pure than that of the West, but deeply pragmatic, faithful to the Soviet and Russian school.
The Su-57, a fighter that remains mysterious in many ways. Between technological feats and forced compromises, between strategic ambitions and economic constraints, the Felon remains a fascinating aircraft, capable of intriguing as much as it unsettles. Its story, still being written, perfectly illustrates the challenges and paradoxes of contemporary Russian military aviation. For aviation and military history enthusiasts, following the evolution of the Su-57 is a lesson in patience and observation. Each prototype, each update, each public demonstration reveals a little more of the true potential of this extraordinary aircraft. But one thing is certain, even in limited numbers, the Su-57 will remain a symbol of Russian ingenuity and its ability to design combat machines that are both formidable and enigmatic. If this dive into the secrets of the Su-57 has captivated you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with upcoming analyses. New episodes await, exploring the mysteries of the world's most powerful fighter jets, their technologies, strategies, and the history that shaped them. Stay curious, stay informed, and continue discovering with us the inner workings of modern military aviation.